The evening haze settled over Lagos like a blanket of smoke, muffling the city's chaos but never fully silencing it. On the mainland, where the streets pulsed with restless traffic and the cries of hawkers clung to the humid air, Jonathan's convoy carved through the crowd like a blade. His tinted SUVs, heavy with muscle and menace, rolled past honking Danfos and reckless Okada riders. Inside the lead vehicle, Jonathan sat in his flowing blue agbada, glass of cognac balanced effortlessly in one hand, his laptop glowing on his lap. But Jonathan's thoughts weren't on business tonight. They were on a woman. Jennifer. He had heard the whispers long before Richard foolishly tangled himself with her. She was no stranger to Lagos corridors of power. She had walked them in high heels that clicked like gunshots, her presence both intoxicating and terrifying. In the smoky backrooms of rival political parties, she was known as the boss lady. A fixer, a queen maker, a woman who could pull strings and tighten nooses with the same manicured fingers. Years ago, when Jonathan's own influence was still consolidating, Jennifer's name had hung in the air like a warning. She could flip allegiances with a smile, ruin careers with a whisper, and secure contracts with a single calculated kiss on the right cheek. She had built her reputation in the shadows, orchestrating deals no man dared put on paper. But power like hers was dangerous. Rivals conspired, enemies plotted, and slowly she was forced underground, her reputation tarnished but never erased. People forgot many things in Lagos but not Jennifer. Now she sat across from Jonathan in the dim light of his private club room, her legs crossed elegantly, a glass of red wine in her hand. The men who flanked Jonathan, hardened power brokers in crisp kaftans, eyed her cautiously. They knew the history. They knew the danger. Jonathan broke the silence, his deep voice echoing like a sermon. You have fire, Jennifer. That much is clear. But fire left unchecked burns its owner. Richard, he paused, letting her lover's name curl with disdain. Richard is a child who does not know the game he's playing. But you, he leaned forward, eyes boring into hers, you know the game. You are the game. Jennifer's lips curved into a dangerous smile. I am not here to play, she replied. I am here to win. The room shifted. Even the men around Jonathan adjusted uneasily in their seats. She wasn't bluffing, they could feel it. Jonathan chuckled, a sound that rumbled like distant thunder. Good. Then win with me. Together we can finish Richard. His arrogance blinds him. He thinks you are just a jealous woman. But I know better. I know the boss lady. For a flicker of a second, Jennifer's eyes darkened. The name carried both power and pain. It had been years since anyone dared call her that. And yet, hearing it again, she felt it course through her veins like electricity. She was not just Richard's discarded lover. He was not just a woman wronged. She was the storm Richard never saw coming. Jennifer set her glass down, leaned forward and whispered, Then let's remind Lagos who I am. Jonathan raised his cognac in a silent toast. To war, he said. Outside the city kept moving, restless, oblivious. But inside that private room, an unholy alliance was born. One built not on love but on vengeance, ambition and power. Richard would never know what hit him. But not everyone was blind. Down the hall, one of the waiters, Munmuni, a sharp-eyed young man who once worked at Richard's residence, froze as he balanced a tray of drinks. His gaze had drifted toward the private lounge, and through the half-open door he saw them. Jonathan in his regal agbada and Jennifer seated confidently at his side. The sight rattled him, but what shook him even more was the expression on his colleague's face. The other waiter, a girl who knew Jennifer from years past, went pale, her tray clattering to the ground as if her bones had turned to water. Her mouth fell open in sheer disbelief. She whispered almost inaudibly, It cannot be her. Then, like someone who had just seen a ghost, she spun on her heels and bolted into the kitchen. Munmuni hesitated only a moment before following her. Something about the terror in her eyes told him this was more than recognition. He found her leaning against the counter, clutching her apron, trembling violently. Are you all right? He asked, stepping closer. She shook her head, still unable to speak, eyes darting toward the lounge door as if the very mention of Jennifer's name would summon her. Finally, in a hoarse whisper, she said, If Jennifer is back in Lagos, something terrible is coming. Munmuni couldn't shake the words of his terrified colleague. Even as the clinking glasses and laughter of Jonathan's inner circle echoed from the lounge, her warning repeated in his head, If Jennifer is back in Lagos, something terrible is coming. Meanwhile, Richard sat in his mansion restless. He had managed to banish Jennifer from his home, but he couldn't banish her from his mind. Her last words still stung. "No one dumps me. You'll regret this." He tried to bury himself in business reports and contracts, but every line blurred into her face. He had underestimated her before, he couldn't afford to do so again. Across town, Jonathan sat back in the leather chair of the club lounge, studying Jennifer with amusement. "Your reputation precedes you, boss lady," he said with a mocking smile. "But reputation alone won't win this war. You'll need leverage." Jennifer's lips curled into a smirk. "I have leverage. Richard is my unfinished business. And believe me, when I'm done with him, Lagos will forget he ever existed." Jonathan's laughter boomed through the room, startling even his closest aides. "Good. Then let's make him bleed." But shadows have a way of moving faster than whispers. By morning, rumors had already started to swirl. A hushed conversation in a bank lobby. A whispered warning in a smoky bar on the mainland. The name Jennifer, long buried, was back on people's tongues. And with it came fear. At Richard's company headquarters, his secretary intercepted a call. A low, husky voice on the other end left a cryptic message. "Tell your boss the boss lady doesn't forgive and she never forgets." Richard slammed his fist on the desk when the message was relayed to him. His nightmare had become Lagos' latest gossip. 2 nights later, he walked into Vogue Lounge, one of Ikoyi's most exclusive restaurants, only to freeze mid-step. Jennifer was already there, seated elegantly at a corner table, a glass of red wine in hand. Her eyes locked on him instantly, a smile curving her lips like a blade. "Richard," she purred as he approached, her voice dripping with mock sweetness. "Do you sit? Or do you prefer to run?" The conversation that followed was laced with venom. She leaned forward, her voice low but razor sharp. "You thought you could discard me like yesterday's trash? You forget, Richard. I made you. And I can unmake you." Richard clenched his jaw, fighting to remain calm as other diners pretended not to notice the storm at the corner table. Jennifer's smile never wavered. "Cross me again and you'll beg for mercy. And I promise you none will come." When she rose to leave, her perfume lingered like poison in the air. A few days later, Richard arrived at his office to find a package waiting on his desk. Inside, nestled in black velvet, was a bouquet of blood-red roses. He frowned, searching for a card. At the back of the package, scrawled in elegant handwriting, were the words that made his stomach drop. "The devil wears Prada." Richard's hand trembled as he dropped the note. For the first time in years he felt genuine fear.